I just realized the Dodgers signed Kobe Covington to when they signed Trevor Bauer here.
That's a good analogy.
God damn it. That D-Bot just made me realize that's who we signed. Thank you for downloading and listening to West Box Score. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at West Box Score. I'm here with my two homies right here, Donald Pa, Sonny Amano. What's up, gentlemen?
Yo, what's going on, guys? How you guys feeling?
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to West Box Score. We're in for a frightful treat because we're going to talk about the Kings, and that's frightful every time we have to watch LA Kings games. But first, as I mentioned, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at West Box Score, and also check out our media partner, Blue Wire Hustle. They're on Twitter at Blue Wire Hustle. And also check out Sonny Amano's podcast. That's the best podcast this side of all podcasts. The Fox Crate podcast.
You're too kind, senor.
Oh, man. Kind. That production value is top notch. I mean, I got to say, check out every podcast you can. But when you listen to Fox Crate and compare it to anything else that's out there, head and shoulders above everybody else. You got the best production on the Fox Crate.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. It's meant to be like, like you're cruising down Whittier Boulevard, just enjoying the ride. Nice. And you're like, I don't even know what they're talking about, but it sounds good.
I mean, it does. The passion that you have for the vinyl, you and Primo Rick and the music culture in general, man, it bleeds through. And that's why it's infectious. And that's why my vinyl kicks back up now because of you guys, man. So
I'm happy to hear it, man. Yeah, we're absolute vinyl geeks. But yeah, please tune in. More episodes to come soon, we promise. But keep tuning into this podcast because we're going to keep bringing the hot takes. So
we'll try, man. We'll try. D-Bot, later in the podcast, he always comes with the hot takes, man. That's when the D-Bot hot takes are fresh out of the oven. Right now, they're simmering, dude. They're simmering. Yeah. So get the oven mitts ready. So basketball, man. That's the big thing going on right now. It's in the throes of the NBA season. We're right before the All-Star break, everybody's favorite part of the NBA season, right? Except for LeBron James. He doesn't really care about the NBA All-Star game, guys. So Lakers second right now in the West. Right behind them is the LA Clippers, man. So is the basketball universe revolving around here in LA, man? Or is it really the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz, that West up for grabs, right, guys?
Yeah, man. It's weird to think that we're already almost halfway through this season when you consider that it feels like it just started because of the weird year that was COVID season, and the Lakers just finished in October, and it's like, wait, what? It's the All-Star game already? And why they have an All-Star game is kind of stupid. I kind of am in LeBron's corner there. I get it, monetarily speaking, why it draws, viewership. But if there's no fans there, and God forbid you have one positive Rona test at that, imagine that being the downfall of your league because you had a meaningless All-Star game, and it was a super spreader event where all the best players in the league just went down. It feels like a NBA. The script for Space Jam. Like Space Jam 2 just was like, oh no, all the best players got the Rona. What are we going to do? And that's when you get Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and all them to fill in for the All-Star players. So,
well,
it's been wild.
That's why you have LeBron in the remake of Space Jam, the new Space Jam movie, man. It's done on purpose.
Right. There you go.
So, yeah, there's no reason for an All-Star game, man. Like, there's no fans there. I mean, to LeBron's point. So, and other players have come out, right, Donald, to say that they're against having this All-Star game, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I like hearing Matt Barnes' takes, especially because he's a retired player, and I saw that on Instagram he posted a comment underneath. I believe it was ESPN SportsCenter's Instagram account. He said like, "This is dumb. All you're gonna do is risk more injuries because if someone gets hurt, then that's gonna hurt whatever team that is." And that is another thing that I know Matt Barnes is advocating for that, which I thought was really cool that he's looking out for that, which obviously he would know as a former player. And that's another part of it. COVID is one thing, and that's definitely like big. I mean, I'm hoping, with vaccines and stuff, we're definitely starting to see less and less of like the harsh news. But I think, like to Matt Barnes' point, the injuries is another thing. What if someone does get hurt? Right now the Lakers are, kind of like almost feel like a three-legged, animal trying to walk. You know what I mean? Without AD. So imagine if another team had another guy that they needed. So yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm all for if they just want to give them the week off to just give them the week off. But the whole let's still try to have some sort of thing happening with no fans is ridiculous. That's the whole point of the All-Star, is that it's supposed to be for the fans. It's like a fan fest. So yeah.
What would be an alternative to like an All-Star game now with the COVID era? Would it just be like them doing trick shots like they did when the COVID was originally locked down? Remember that? They were doing like horse virtually with each other, like at their own houses and stuff. Like that's the only thing you really should do at this point, right? Like kind of do that. Don't risk, more COVID outbreaks like Sonny's point, another super spreader event. We don't need any of that right now, or injuries. But I mean, AD is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks, right? He's going to be out should be coming back after this quote unquote All-Star break. Don't you think though you got to rest him even longer than that? Like, do you keep him out even longer than the 2 to 3 weeks? I mean, Sonny's shaking your head. So how long would you rest him for?
I would rest them until April 15th or whenever that first game before playoffs starts. That's usually in mid-April. That's why I just randomly picked April 15th. Right. But yeah, that's when I would say, AD, you're getting shut down until then, because that dude, unfortunately, has a history of this. And we just can't take any chances, especially with the Achilles. My fear, I think I texted you guys when it happened, was that he had initially maybe ruptured the Achilles. And then when, the MRI came back the next day and they said it was a calf injury, I was like, that sounds like KD. What happened to KD a couple of years ago, when they kept calling it a quote unquote calf injury. And then he came to play in the finals, and this time he actually popped his Achilles. Yeah. So for me, you got to imagine with a dude that tall, just like AD, he's just like KD. AD is also a beast of, in terms of high end agility. Like people his height aren't supposed to move the way he does. You know what I mean? Like, talk about evolution. Like I'm sure the Achilles are still catching up in the evolution process when it comes to this stuff. So they're still I feel like even more sensitive, because you're hearing a lot more often these days that that's an injury that's occurring, in modern sports. So it's definitely worrisome, and yeah, the Lakers got to just protect them. If that means we drop to 5th in the West, like, it is what it is, man. Because if you have a healthy AD and LeBron and mostly a healthy Lakers squad, then it really doesn't matter what seed you have, so that would be my opinion. But Donald, what do you think?
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth on that last part. I feel like the seeding shouldn't matter, given that you're going to go to the playoffs regardless. But yeah, I know Sonny had said via text that, he was worried about the Achilles, and I think I replied saying, I think it's just soreness. And that's just probably me wanting to believe that it wasn't as serious as it looked. But at the same time, like, I kind of felt when he did go out this last game with the Nuggets, that's when it was like, yeah, he came back way too soon. And I totally get that. It's that whole thing where, like, he's still the draw of the team, and you want to get back out there, you want to compete, and then you don't want your team to feel like they're going through like a losing slump, which kind of felt that was happening when he was out. And I guess it's that whole like hero thing. Like, you don't want to be a hero, but you try, and I think that's kind of what happened. And then now we have this situation where he really is out, and it kind of comes back, and now we look at it and it kind of felt like, man, I think he should have just been out until the All-Star break from the beginning, instead of kind of coming back for 2 games and then being gone out and now having to wait again a whole long time. And like Sonny said, now they have to play it smart with how they move forward. But yeah, it's a blow to the Lakers for sure. Those are your NBA chances, going down the drain if AD's out, for sure.
Well, the crazy thing is that when it happened, the Lakers we're in the middle of a 7-game winning streak when he came back. So for me, if you're riding a hot streak like that, it's like, hey, just keep sitting out, man, until we hit a bump in the road where it's like, oh, we've lost now 2 out of 3, and it's like, all right, AD, if you feel good, time to come back. But I mean, yes, I say that as a 7-game winning streak, and within those 7 games, I think the Lakers played like 4 overtimes, so it's not like they were killing anybody. If anything, I guess AD felt like he wanted to provide some relief to some of the dudes that were like LeBron, who was having to shoulder most of the minutes and the load, and that could prove costly later down the line if, God forbid, LeBron were to get injured, because of all the miles on him. So it is a tough spot. I understand why. According to him, he said he felt good prior to the game. He felt better than he had before. And of course, that's what you always hear. And then boom, he went down. Yeah. It's like, oh man. But luckily it seems like we've dodged the bullet. And I say we, obviously, because we have a vested interest in it as fans who give our hours of life away to root for this team. So hopefully
3 hours a day, 3 times a week. That matters to us, goddamn it.
It sure does.
No, for sure.
So
and then the hour you spend listening to this podcast to hear more about it, because you can't get enough of it during the games themselves, right?
Right.
Every other sports podcast you listen to. So, I mean, right? Them coming back, AD coming back shouldn't be rushed, obviously, to help with the workload, but you don't need them for seeding really right now, right? Because none of the West teams, I don't know if any of them have fans, so the home court advantage really doesn't play into it this time. More so than ever. Let AD rest.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just, man, I like to echo your guys' point, man. We don't need the hero right now in the middle of the season. We need him to be a hero come the middle of April, as you said earlier, Sonny.
Yeah.
That's when we need him to step up.
He's unfortunately, I'm tied to 2 players that are injury prone in Anthony Davis and Jimmy Garoppolo.
And you call me the jinx, huh?
I know, right? Yeah. It's like I'm starting to reconsider my thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But we'll see, man. Go ahead, Donald.
No, I was going to say it would have been nice to have him back, like this coming game happening, next, which is against the Brooklyn Nets on Thursday.
Oh, man, that would have been great.
That's going to be on TNT, and that felt like a huge must-watch. And now it's kind of like, well, it's going to be the Lakers without AD.
But Brooklyn without KD, it seems like, because KD's been out for a couple games with a calf injury. The injury bug is real, and to Matt Barnes' credit and a lot of people's fears, again, it's another reason why the All-Star game doesn't make sense, because dudes are playing on short rest, and it's just a different time, so you got to be more careful. But I'll still be tuning in. It is still absolutely must watch.
Absolutely.
Brooklyn Nets versus LA Lakers. Kyrie. Anytime you get Kyrie versus LeBron, it's gonna be enough of a reason to watch.
Man, we're gonna probably have to wait for the NBA Finals to see both teams at hopefully full strength, right?
Yeah,
but
that'd be fun.
So for future, going down the road, once LeBron finally hangs it up and Father Time finally does get the W over him, because right now Father Time taking that L on LeBron's case. When LeBron finally does hang it up and we Lakers only have an Anthony Davis as their star player, does that make you worry now that we have to get another big star to carry that load? When, not if AD goes down, but when he goes down during the regular season, and we might not be playing for seeding, we might be playing for playoff lives at that point. So who do you see the Lakers going after, or who do you hope they go after? Sonny, you seem ready to answer.
No, I'm just taking a deep breath because I just like Tom Brady, I can't see a day when LeBron James is done.
I don't want to see
you
that.
speak of this as though it's going to happen in 2 years, and yet it could be like 6 years later, and we're still talking about, when Father Time does finally get LeBron. So it's hard for my mind to go that far in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Donald?
No, I've always believed that once LeBron leaves, the Lakers have to look for a point guard, because that's really what he facilitated for them. He's made it easy for them not to have to worry about getting a point guard, and I mean that's what they got with Schroeder. That's
so it's gonna be Schroeder's team then, right?
Yeah, it kind of feels like he should be the one that kind of carries the mantle in terms of just as a point guard. But like, I mean, for me, I don't feel like I've seen Schroeder be like super amazing. Like now he's become good. He had like 24 points today. And like, I want to say the last couple of games, especially during the AD timeout, like he has stepped it up. But man, there was a huge part in like, I believe in like not January, like just like January, December, where it just felt like, dude, what's going on with this guy? Like, you know, he's not confident taking the shots and all that. And it just kind of made me feel like, yo, like he's supposed to be a point guard, you know, he's supposed to be like a floor general. And I think that's kind of what made me feel like, oh, what's going on with this dude, you know? And maybe that's why he did come off the bench at Oklahoma. That's what I was thinking. But he's kind of like slowly coming around. So I hope that he does, you know, really fill in the shoes if need be. Because if not, then the Lakers have to go and find somebody that will. And that's going to be the complementary piece to AD.
I will say, if we're just fantasizing here,
yes.
you know, assuming the Father Time caught Bron in 2 years, give me Dame Dollar. Like, bring him to LA, pair him up with AD. Like, that's who I want. I want a killer again.
That'd be good.
You know, so that's who would be on the top of my wish list. But if we're just dreaming, if we're just fantasizing here, it's like that's the player for the Lakers.
So you wouldn't want Kawhi Leonard to cross the hallway then and come to the Lakers finally?
You know, I would just to get the reaction out of Clippers fans, but not really so much because I coveted Kawhi the same way they did like when Montrez, you know, came over. Imagine one of their star players did it. Forget it.
That's crazy.
I think they'd be broken.
Yeah.
More so than they already are now, huh?
Yeah.
So before we wrap up our basketball talk, Donald, do you want to give us a bit of a Clippers update? Our obligatory Clippers update?
Yeah, so the Clippers, who are currently third in the West, defeated the Miami Heat yesterday, 118-125. Marcus Morris actually had a season high of 32 points. His previous season high was this past Sunday, and that was for 23 points against the Cavaliers. The Clippers did get the win without Kawhi or Paul George, who are both out with injuries. The other two players that contributed in the Miami Heat win was Ivica Zubac with 22 points and Lou Williams with 18 points. And Miami Heat, obviously, even though they're 10th in the East, you still got to respect them a little bit. Mm-hmm. One, because they're an NBA team and you got to respect every NBA team. And two, they were in the finals and that's just commendable. But Jimmy Butler, man, Jimmy Buckets came through with 30 points. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero both posted 27 points each. So, I mean, that's still, like, again, great players that, you know, I think any team that would need those positions filled, those would be the guys you'd want to go after. And as far as for, like, the Clippers injury report, Kawhi Leonard, he's out with the lower leg. I believe he's day-to-day. Paul George is out with the toe. I don't think there is a timetable yet of when he'll come back. Patrick Beverley didn't play. They just rested him, which I thought was pretty interesting, but they rested him because this was a back-to-back game. So they wanted him to be ready for tomorrow's game or Wednesday's game at the time of taping against the Utah Jazz. And Nicholas Batum, who was out with a migraine / concussion, as they labeled it in the injury report. But the Clippers are playing the Utah Jazz twice, Wednesday and Friday at 7 p.m. Those are the next games for them against the first place Utah Jazz.
Some more must-watch basketball there.
For selfish reasons, I need the Clippers to give us more on why Paul George is not coming back or when he's coming back, because I have him sitting on my freaking fantasy bench along with the rest of my IL team, including D'Angelo Russell and all these other dudes. So I'm like, God, you're killing me, man. Yeah. Another reason why I don't want this stupid All-Star game to happen. It's going to fuck up my fantasy team some more.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of fantasy, the three of us are involved in fantasy hockey. And Sonny and myself not doing too well. But guess who's in first place in one of the divisions there? D-Bot doing the damn thing, man.
Yeah.
How are you doing it? What's your secret? Are you actually watching these games?
No, I'm not. I just put whoever's not on COVID protocol or who's not on IR. Yeah. Those are the guys that start, and I I just go based
What
off
a strategy.
That's it, man. All my guys are like 80% and up rostered in all the leagues, so I know that they're all guys that are probably would be in an all-star team if NHL decided to do that. I don't know if they're gonna do an all-star game.
I have not heard anything about an NHL all-star game this time around. They'd have to put it back in one of those bubbles that they had in Edmonton and Vancouver last year. But man, the NHL season's rough as a Kings fan, man. The Kings are playing up to what we were worried they play up to, which is still a team that's trying to find themselves, a team that's still developing, trying to build that chemistry with veterans and young guys, fresh up from the AHL and making the NHL debuts in almost every game. It feels like, there's a new player making their NHL debut in almost every Kings game you watch now. So I'm trying to keep up with who's this guy? Where's he from? Is he Canadian or is he Russian? That's kind of what the hardest thing is to kind of keep up with for the Kings players. But it's just so frustrating when you got talent like Anze Kopitar and Jeff Carter and, one of the greatest goaltenders to ever lace up skates and Jonathan Quick and just like playing like shells themselves, man. Father Time getting the W's there because they are up against it now. And it's just frustrating, especially losing to rival teams like the Anaheim Ducks, San Jose Sharks. You never want to lose games to those teams. And it's rough, man. Sonny, have you been watching any Kings games?
I have not. Like you said, fantasy just across the board has not been kind to me. Basketball, hockey, it's just... And fuck this hockey league, by the way, because you take an L for just losing your matchup, whereas if it were individual, I've talked to D-Bot about this, if it were individual statistical wins that counted, in other words, I went 4-6 this week, but I took the L. So technically it affected my overall record, but had they just cumulatively added my statistical victories, I'd be in a much better spot right now because I lost 4-6 this week. I lost 4-6 the week before. I lost 4-6. I'm close to 500, but my overall record doesn't show that. It shows that I'm like 1-4 or something like that. So, so whoever the commissioner is out there, I will not say his name, his or her name.
Hey, be nice to our commissioner. Our rookie commissioner is trying the best that he can. He's he has expertise when it comes to fantasy football and fantasy baseball, even basketball. But this is his first venture into hockey, and he's all of the rookies, just like the Kings. A lot of the Kings players on the ice.
I do have one question I'd like to ask you guys because I'm curious, and to hear your answers. And this is, again, in true Sonny fashion, just kind of deviating from what we were supposed to talk to. But since you were just talking about it, it came to my mind. How long, and I think every team is different, but how long of a window are you guys comfortable with in terms of in-between titles? In other words, the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers finally got over the hill. They won another one since, what was it, 32 years, 33 years, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, 1988 to 2020. So 32 years. So it's like, how comfortable, like from a, of course you always want more, right? You want the back-to-back. That's a given. You want
to build a dynasty all the time, right?
Every fan wants that for their team. But realistically, right? Like, how much goodwill does a title buy you in terms of seasons? Like, would you, by year 4, now again be frustrated that the Dodgers haven't won another one? Or would you, by year 8 or 10, be like, all right, this is ridiculous. How have the Dodgers not won another title? Because the Kings, they won 2 in a short, 2
and 3 years.
Yeah, short span, but haven't almost sniffed the playoffs maybe but twice since then.
Correct.
So my question is that window still open, or do we still give them the goodwill? Because a lot of those same players are still technically on this team where you're like, well, these players did give us 2 titles in the last, 12 years. So, or is it like, nah, fuck these guys, get rid of them. Like, we need to compete for titles now.
I'm advocating to trade Drew Doughty. I'm advocating to trade Jonathan Quick. I'm advocating to trade Dustin Brown. And as much as it would hurt me to see those players go, I mean, it hurt me to see Jake Muzzin go to Toronto. It hurt me to see Alec Martinez go to Las Vegas because those were all integral players, pivotal players in the championship run. I mean, Justin Williams going back to Carolina always hurts me. But it's, to answer your question, like the amount of time, I never expected the Kings to ever win a Stanley Cup. So to me,
they won 2.
And they won 2 in 3 years. I mean, back-to-back regular season champions. Just so you know, that one championship the Chicago Blackhawks won in that year was on during a lockout season. So that one I was give that asterisk.
Oh, is that so? Is that so?
The lockout season.
Okay, keep that same energy when baseball season starts.
When the bubble comes back into play.
Same energy.
But it's just. I mean, to answer your question, for me, LA Kings goodwill, it's fine. I always expect them to lose. I only watch hockey for the sheer fun of it and see them my excitement is seeing them try to make the playoffs. And I get excited just to see them, we're almost making the playoffs. And then once we're there, I don't expect anything else anymore. I really don't.
So what about for the Dodgers? What do you feel like?
Once again, that changes team to team.
I agree. I understand what you're saying.
So Dodgers now, anything less than a championship would be failure. Like before, it was getting to the World Series. Everything less than that was failure. Now, anything less than winning the World Series will be seen as failure.
No, I understand. I understand what failure is defined as. What my question is, at what point? Because you're going to be upset that they didn't. You're going to be upset that they failed, right? But at the end of the day, when you sit back, you're going to look at, assuming you were a player, or let's say fans got rings for whatever stupid reason, you would sit back and you would look at your.
I got a nice LA Kings replica ring, just so you know.
Okay, well there you go. Let's just say you sit back as a fan and you're looking at your ring and it still shines because it happened recently. Recently
shines
enough,
in my heart.
Where you're just kind of like, well, we did just get one relatively recently. Because I could say as Lakers fans, we're 1,000% spoiled, right? Like, the Lakers can't go more than 4 years or 5 years contending for titles, or else it's like, blow it up. What's the GM doing? What's Genie doing? Like, who's the next superstar we could poach? Those are realistic Laker expectations because that's just what the Lakers have built over our lifetime. Like, they compete for championships every decade and multiple ones, right? But that's not the reality for just about every other franchise not named the Patriots or the Lakers. Mm-hmm. So what is your guys' threshold, like Donald, where you're like, all right, one Dodgers World Series will last me like 4 years of happiness before I need that next one?
I think for me it's very relative to where the sport is in its moment and how good the team that I root for is. So like how Alex was saying about the Dodgers, like, yes, I do expect them to win another World Series with that roster that they have. Yeah. Like, you're not going to have a roster that great if you're not getting a title. And that's just how I see it. And that's my expectation, is to go back and win another championship. With the Kings, it's like, okay, hockey has changed like in the past couple of years, and I definitely did see it once the Golden Knights came out, and just seeing how much different they play.
The LAFC of hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. And then seeing the Golden Knights be a lot faster. They're not as physical, and for whatever reason, the Kings are kind of stuck in this moment where they're still holding on to guys that came from an era that, even though it wasn't too long ago, it just feels like a different era already, because it feels like NHL is moving in a different direction, similar to the NFL, where now mobile quarterbacks are a thing. And the thing is that even though Tom Brady won it and he defied that, the fact of the matter is Tom Brady's just one dude. Most teams would want a mobile quarterback if they were to choose a good quarterback like that they needed, that don't have one right now, like have a good quarterback. And I think that it's all relative to that. So with the Chargers, I do want them to win the AFC West, and I do believe they have the roster to do it. Now, I think that the issue with the Chargers was a coaching thing, but that's relative to that sport, in my opinion. But I don't expect the Chargers to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl, but I do expect them to win the AFC West, given the team that they have. So that's just,
I wonder if it's relative to the sport also, because like you mentioned the Chargers, right? Football is notorious. And what makes it so great is the parity that usually exists in that league. Again, the Patriots notwithstanding, or Tom Brady notwithstanding, depending how you look at it. You never know. It really is like any given Sunday, any given year, a different team can compete, legitimately compete for a title. Like the Bills and Browns competed this year. If you were to ask us like a year ago or 2 years ago, we would have laughed your ass out of the room, Yeah. But so to think that, so I think our expectations, right? Like at least my own, they're adjusted based off of that, right? Where it's like, yeah, do I think the Niners have the talent to win multiple Super Bowls in a short amount of span? Absolutely. But is it realistic of me to expect that? No, not in football. Because injuries and all that. The only sport that it seems like dynasties happen relatively often is in basketball. Yeah. The Warriors, the Lakers, the Spurs. There's only a handful of teams that have won so many titles over the last 25 or 20 years. In baseball, the last back-to-back champion was the Yankees, I think, in the 90s. So, outside of the Giants mini dynasty, I know, cover your ears, Dodger fans. The Giants mini dynasty
even year
that was kind of like the Kings of hockey, in that sense. Dynasties don't, like back-to-back champs don't happen. So I feel like although the Dodgers have had the talent and will continue to have the talent, I think the expectation is different than like the reality, right? Like if the Dodgers get 1 out of 3 good years where they have this stacked lineup, I feel like that's successful. But if they got none, then I'd be pissed, right? Like, if they got 2, that's like cherry on the icing on the cake. And because like for the Mariners, we don't have the fucking like I'm dreaming of the playoffs, let alone the World Series, So so that's why I asked. Like I was curious, like what kind of leeway do we give these teams realistically,
Yeah, it's the team that they put out in the field and curbed against what the competition is on that given year.
Yeah.
And that'll curb your expectations going into it. So it's like this Kings potentially making the playoffs this year. Like, well, the top 4 teams can make the playoffs, and there's definitely 3 dominant teams, and the other 5, it's kind of up for grabs. So it's anybody's chance to get that last spot. And the Kings have not played well to it. So there was optimism going into it, but it's quickly going away.
I had a buddy, just to put a bow on this topic. I had a buddy who, when in light of the Trevor Bauer signing, I think I had sent him in a group text, and a different group text. I said, not impressed. Is what I said, and of course it trolled him and it triggered him but his initial reaction was, what have the Mariners done?
Nah.
But to me, I'm saying, are you comparing yourself to the Mariners, or are you comparing yourself to the top of the league? Because we know what we are and we know what we're not.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be comparing yourself to what the Mariners have done. You should be comparing yourself to what your actual competition's going to be. So that's why I was like, come on, get out of here, man.
At that point, he's trying to troll your team
exactly.
back. That's all you can
Just
do.
A weak comeback.
But yeah, totally was. But as we talked about in the last cast, the Trevor Bauer move was a total, as you said, desperate attempt to keep up with the San Diego Padres moves. And it's just, man, I don't know. For one, now the more we hear about the amount of money being spent for him, the opt-out, the no-trade clause, the opt-outs after every other year for him, it's just like, man, it's just more and more seeming like a bad overall deal the Dodgers pulled. But the only good thing that come out of this is earlier, what happened later in the week was we find out that Justin Turner re-upped for the Dodgers. So
Speaking of super spreaders,
the super spreader himself, Justin Turner, is coming back for 2 years, $34 million, and a third year team option. So, just when the Trevor Bauer deal happened, I was glad the Dodgers did something, but also not glad that this was something they did, because I don't like this guy. I just do not like this guy, and it hurts me to root against somebody on my team, but I don't think I could root for him. I don't want him to go out there and have a quality start at all. I want him to go out there. and give up 4 runs, but I want the Dodgers
Just
to
score
score 6.
4 runs. I feel you. I feel you. I respect that.
I want him to be
respect that.
humbled. You know what I mean? It's just like, he's such an asshole. I don't like him. And at the press conference, they called him out on a lot of the stuff he's been doing in social media. And his response was, this is not the forum to talk about that. Asshole. Every forum is the forum to try to make amends for the dumb shit you're doing. Like, scream it from the mountaintops that you're wrong. You're going to try to be a better person. Instead, oh, this isn't the forum. You're such a dick. I don't like him. I don't know if you could tell. I don't like him. I will not be buying a number 27 or a number 47 Trevor Bauer jersey.
Oh, he hasn't picked a jersey number? Is that what's going on?
It's going back and forth. It's either between 27 or 47. There's this online, hype over what numbers he can pick. I don't give a fuck. I don't like Trevor Bauer. And it's only going to be until he does something right about the dumb shit he's been doing. And politics aside, because yes, I've seen some stuff about him being a avid conservative. Your politics is one thing, dude. Leave that shit off the baseball field, and I'll be fine about it. Because I'm sure there are some pro-conservative players on the Dodgers that have not made their expressions, their voices be known. Maybe even the Seattle Mariners, Sonny, believe it or not. But
I'm sure. But
it's just don't put that out there, right? Like, keep your politics in the bedroom. Keep, religion too. It's kind of hard.
We can't have it both ways, though, because, like you said, every forum,
you're right.
Every forum is that forum. But then we can't tell them put your politics aside. So it's like,
but no, you're going to polarize people with it.
Yeah, you should absolutely know that, and I'm sure Trevor Bauer is aware of, I dare I say, by the act, or by the by his actions, mm-hmm. he almost gets like a rise out of it, knowing that he's gonna, he's being a bit polarizing or controversial. There's dudes out there like that, they like to, Alex. But it is what it is. You again, like I said on our last episode, the biggest thing is to just identify that and know that, okay, they're showing their cards. This is who it is. Know who you're rooting for, or, in whatever situation. Because again, natural instincts are going to kick in, and the bases are going to be loaded in the playoffs, and Trevor Bauer is going to be on the mound, and you guys are tied 2-2 in this series. And how are you going to be rooting for him to give up a hit at that point? You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So, of course. So
that's why I just say, like, it's okay. He's still wearing your team colors, but and I'm glad to hear that, you've come to your own reckoning where you have made up your mind and you're like, I can't root for him, but just know that, like, it's okay, man, if you do. Like, it's a natural thing, it's gonna happen. But the good thing is you're aware of his actions and the douchebaggery that sometimes he will be acting with.
Yeah, no, I think that I believe that it is tough, especially when it comes to politics. I mean, we just saw it this week, right? The Mandalorian actress got let go of, you know what I mean, for posting her views, you know what I mean, which obviously are tied to political stuff at the end of the day. And, it was wrong what she did, but hey, that's what she felt like. And I think that's part of the human thing, is that sometimes people have different filters as to what they think is offensive and what isn't, and they don't understand what abuse is. And I think that with Bauer's situation, it just feels like he hasn't came to that yet. But I do hope that he does keep, especially if he has really strong views away from the baseball field, because it's only going to further damage you, man. Like, it's not going to help you out at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think for as much, I know there's certain sports where it people, like, again, the other day, I think months ago when we were talking about UFC, you know what I mean? Like, there's fighters who were wearing the hat and they were all like out there, but you didn't see Dana White getting bothered or whatever, because that sport allows it. And I feel like in baseball, you have to be careful, man, because LA doesn't really view things the way you do. So, I mean, I'm hoping that he just learns to kind of like minimize that and just focus on the game, and just stay off social media. I think that's the answer. Just don't say anything. Like, we don't really need to hear what your thoughts are on stuff. So that's just my take on it.
I just realized the Dodgers signed Kobe Covington when they signed Trevor Bauer here.
That's a good analogy.
God damn it, Donald. Thank D-Bot just made me realize.
It kind of reminds me of when, again, every as you said, maybe the Mariners have it, right? But if we go to many different sports, right, where there's various individuals who have their own beliefs and their own ideologies. And for instance, I remember when the Niners drafted Nick Bosa, and it being like his tweets got instantly flagged, like his previous tweets, right? Supporting one former president who may or may not share a name with somebody in this group.
I mean, the most polarizing president we ever had.
Yeah. And
wow.
and it was very much like a gotcha, like, oh, look who the Niners are getting, and it was kind of like, like, of course, when you don't align you yourself as the fan fully or can't get with it, it makes it tricky because it's like, oh, great, now I got to root for this dude. But to his credit, or to his PR's credit, they got out in front of it. They're like, he took some whatever problematic tweets, he took them down, and he was just like, and he hasn't mentioned a word since, and it's not like that's erased how he probably feels or he thinks. I'm sure he still is down with some things. But the fact that he's not so public about it is like, okay, cool. It does make it easier for one to digest and to root for him, right? Like when he's, sandwiching a quarterback or whatever it may be, or that you are bummed that he tore his ACL or MCL. It's oh no, not Nick Bosa. Even though if we really wanted to parse, the political, I should be like, yeah, that's what you fucking get. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So that's why you can't be too much one way and you can't be too much the other way. It's like you just got to find a healthy balance somewhere in the middle. Like, be aware of where they stand and what they're posting, but also understand that at the end of the day, everyone's human, right? Like they're going to make mistakes or they're just going to be stuck in their ways sometimes. And that's all right.
Self-awareness is important.
Exactly.
I think that's what it is.
Exactly.
And the thing is that, like, sometimes people forget. And I think that, and I guess this goes into the conversation of cancel culture and, like, how does cancel culture operate? And sometimes cancel culture can be too much. You know what I mean?
Sometimes.
Where it's like to the point where
a lot
it's
of
like,
times, yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't let people mature or grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that it's a bit of a double-edged sword, this whole thing, and I think in the future athletes are gonna have it even harder if they have strong views, either side, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just strongly dislike Trevor Bauer right now, not for his political views. I don't agree with his political views. I really don't. But what I really disagree with is his bullying of civilians, or when they don't share his views or when they just criticize him. I think that's petty, and I think that's very childish in a person. And I think he should be better than that. And I want to hold him to that level of accountability. And if he were to own up to it, then I'd be like, okay, you're improving as a person. And I'm not going to like say fuck Trevor Bauer anymore, but I will still not be 100% a fan of yours, but I'll be like, I wouldn't feel as guilty in the need to shower every time he gets this, great performance and I cheered him on, like I wouldn't feel so dirty afterwards. But it's just, and to Donald's point, man, growing, like Gina Carano was an mixed martial arts pioneer, and that tweet she posted was stupid, man, just stupid. And it's just like, well, don't delete it. Own up to how stupid that is. You deleting it, you're realizing how stupid it is, but don't double down now and go and say, and it's like, now I really can't roll with you because I loved Gina Carano, man. She's a pioneer of the mixed martial arts.
It's kind of tough, right? You think about it, like we try to cancel her for what she did, which, again, that's just how she thinks. And that she doesn't think she did anything wrong. That's literally, she's convinced that what she did was right. And it's tough because she did make history. You know what I mean? Like, and it's hard to take that away from her. And I wouldn't want to take that away from her.
We can't.
You got to celebrate what she did for the UFC and what she did for MMA. So it's tough. But yeah, to your point, I mean, sorry, I cut you off there.
No, yeah, it's just very... the whole evolving thing, you have to let people realize mistakes and evolve. Man, I'm going to constantly be making mistakes more than anybody else on the three out of the three of us here. But it's because of my own ignorance to certain issues, and we have to learn and grow as people. That's what we're going to do every day. And all I could do is like, oh, damn, I really messed up there. Now I'm a little bit more, educated to that issue. I'm going to try to be better. And that's all we can do.
And for some people, though, it takes longer than you would like it to. Some people grow it. Again, I think we've talked about this before. This is a topic, again, shameless plug here. Tune into the Fox Crate podcast because Primo, Rick, and I talked about cancel culture in season 1. Go find that episode. It's called Cancel Culture. But because obviously this is an issue, as you guys brought in Gina Carano, which is kind of tied into sports based off of her history, but also pop culture.
Right.
It's happened in media, entertainment industry, period. Not just entertainment industry, just in life. So it's a delicate subject, and I will say that if you're coming at it from a fandom standpoint, like you're already coming at it kind of heightened because fans are fucking crazy. Like we're stupid. We're stupid when it comes to that sense, right? Like I remember having a problem when the Niners signed Richard Sherman, right? He's a stand-up guy off the field. Everything you read about him, he gives back to the community, one of the smartest athletes out there. And I like that part about him. But at the end of the day, he talked shit to my team when he played for the rival team, and he disrespected them like there was no tomorrow. My head coach, my wide receiver in Crabtree, and I could never live that down until we signed him. And it was like, at first it was begrudgingly like, I don't know, fine, we got him. I don't know how I can root for him. And then week 2, I'm like, yeah, shut him down, Richard Sherman, and it's like, that's just fandom is its own thing, and you just can't take it too seriously, even when it does cross over into real world, because it's just life is too complex. It's there's a lot of gray. Just learn how to enjoy it as best as you can without morally corrupting yourself. And if you do morally corrupt yourself, as long as you're acknowledging it, then that's all right. You know what I mean? Like it's like fine. You that's the choice you made. We don't have to ride.
Self-aware sellout.
Exactly. Like we don't have to ride with you. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're aware, like, yeah, I fucking sold out, or whatever it may be. Like, yeah, I'm a racist. Yeah, whatever it may be. It's like, okay, we'd have more respect for you in that case, because it'd be like, okay, you're not talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're literally just telling us what you are trying to do.
To quote future President Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, we don't sell out, we buy in here, when he was the corporate champion, man. And we're glad you bought in and listened to this episode of the West Box Score. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at West Box Score. Check out Sonny and Mono's podcast, the Fox Crate Podcast, and check them out on Instagram at the Fox Crate. Be sure to check out our media partner on Twitter. They're at Blue Wire Hustle on Twitter. That's it for us this week. See ya.
Peace.
Later.